Hi there, you're welcome to yet another exciting time on Flipside with yours sincerely, Oluije Oikokai. Today on Flipside, we're looking at violence against men, rising cases of domestic abuse. And we have with us Peter Ebojele. He is a public affairs analyst. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
And nice to have you here.
Thank you.
And so we have Dr. Shola Okunkpola. She is a life and business coach. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Nice to see you after a very long time.
Good to be here.
Okay, now, violence against men. When I talked about this while preparing for this topic, so many men out there said, yes, what a nice topic. And some other person said, this is something rarely being talked about. People don't talk about that. Most of the time we'll hear about violence against women, and violence against women. So today we deemed it fit to talk about violence against men. Now we've been hearing of different cases of men being abused, issues up to the fact that rising up to cause of that and all of that. So today we have two very special persons with us. But first of all, let's start with what is domestic abuse. Let's start with Mr. Peter.
All right. Domestic violence, because let's call it domestic violence. It is a situation whereby at home, somebody is being oppressed, somebody is being maltreated. Basically, that's what it is. By means of maybe somebody slapping or using violence to approach someone. For example, there are people who don't know how to negotiate. There are people who don't know how to give out their point. They want to make a point. They rather use their hand to make the point than to say what they want to say. There are people who don't like to say something and then what they said looks like somebody's questioning it. So people resort to other approach rather than talking. So violence is under that. There are several things that people do, several actions of violence against another person at home. So that's what it is basically. Violence that takes place within the home.
It's in the confines of the home.
Yes.
All right, let's look at some statistics being given out. In 1 to 4 men experience physical violence, sexual violence, or stalking by an intimate partner. Now, number 2 says in 1 to 5 men experience sexual violence, including rape and sexual coercion. Now, 1 in 10 men experience physical violence, such as assault and battery. Now, men are more likely to be victims of violence than women, with 83% to be reported violent crime committed against men. Now, we also have boys and men are more likely to be victims of sexual abuse and exploitation, with 1 in 6 boys experiencing sexual abuse before the age of 18. Now, it is very important to note that violence against men can be very serious. Yes, a very serious and physical, emotional consequences, including injury, death, mental health issues, such as depression, anxiety, substance abuse and addiction, suicidal thoughts and behaviors, difficulty forming healthy relationship. Now, let's go to Dr. Shola. We're talking about violence against men. How did this come about? We know men are the figurehead. They are the head of the home. When you hear someone saying, I was being abused by my wife, what comes to your mind?
Okay, so thank you, EJ, for having me again. So violence against men, especially in this part of the world, goes most of the time unreported. Yeah. And I think it's because of the the persona or the aura created around men. Men are expected to be strong.
Yeah, the figurehead.
Men are expected to be tough. Men are depicted to be bold. And so a lot of times you find that abuses go unreported because people who are being abused at home, wherever it's happening, especially the men, feel that it's going to make them look weak. And you find quite, a lot of men within the home also get abused both physically, psychologically, emotionally, and all that. And a lot of times, those abuses also go unreported, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, even physical assault, because generally women are regarded as the weaker gender.
Yeah.
So if a woman, assaults a man physically, slaps, beats a man, punches a man, bites a man, the man is told to exercise restraint. But however much restraint the man exercises, that's abuse. That's violence against the man. And then, of course, you find that happen more often than not. So I think it has to do with, there's a cultural coloration to domestic abuse in our climes.
Okay. All right, so to Mr. Peter, who do you think we should, melt out this blame to as regards violence against men? Now, someone was saying something to me, says, women, they don't know how to hold their tongue. Now, I want to ask, who are we to blame as resulting violence against men? We have had of different occasions of women going as far as, using sharp objects on their partners. So who are we to blame?
If we are going to blame somebody, it's going to be very, very difficult. But I think if we want to blame at all, we are going to blame the society. The reason is very, very simple. A lot of men, I think when we talk about violence against men, abuse against men, we will really look at verbal abuse, emotional abuse, because that's where a lot of women have strength, okay? Yeah. Now, the society we grew up in here in Africa, everybody believes that it's the man's job to provide, it's a man's job to, provide anything, finance. So when the man is not able to provide, like the woman is thinking he should provide, she uses her mouth, releases all the magazines. And a lot of times, it's a shameful thing for a man to even come out to complain that, especially, my wife slaps me or my wife punches me. That's very rare, even though it happens, but it's very, very rare. But the ones that a lot of men, complain about is that verbal abuse. And it's the society, that's just the truth, because society have structured the minds of people that as a woman, you either don't need to work or you need to work less, or even when you work, your money is your money, your husband's money is the family's money. So we get your money, our money, my money is my money. So it's the society by and large, because if not for the society, there are some people will probably not be complaining. If people approach marriage from the area of partnership, or we are together in this, for better, for worse, no matter what it is, you don't need to compare your husband as a woman. You don't need to compare your husband to your neighbor. You don't need to compare him to other people. Because the truth is, in life, everybody don't earn the same thing. A footballer will earn much more than a medical doctor. But a footballer has a shorter career than a medical doctor. So it becomes baseless, it becomes senseless for somebody to be comparing, your mates are doing this, your mates are doing that, you are not doing it. So it's the society. Because if you go to some other parts of the world where the society is not structured that, the man takes all the load. Of course, there is nowhere in the world you will go. I don't think there's anywhere in the world where men are not responsible for taking care of their families. However, the degree to which the whole thing is put on the man is different in the Western world from Africa. So, by and large, I just think if we are to blame anybody, it's the society where we grew up.
Okay, now, Mrs. Shola, I don't know if you go with what Mr. Peter just said.
Yeah.
Are we to also apportion the blame to society?
Yeah, I will agree with him to the point where society and then the family. So society at large and then the family. The truth of the matter is that we cannot blame the society without blaming the family.
Okay, so when you talk about family, are we talking about extended family or?
Extended, immediate, the family. So you see, we must realize that boys are humans, men are humans.
True.
So while we hold them in high esteem, we must understand that they are not to be abused. So what you find most times is if a girl is slapped or a girl is abused, you find opera. But a man experiences the same thing. It is downplayed, just like he said, if the man reports it, it's regarded as a weakling. But that does not take or mitigate the impact of that abuse. We're only different biologically. Emotionally, we'll express the same feelings, the same emotions. We feel the same way. So the home, immediate and extended, have a role to play in abuse. You find, for instance, how many mothers actually know that their sons are susceptible to sexual abuse. So you're comfortable having somebody mind your son that is a girl and you're comfortable, yet you're more cautious when you find a boy minding your daughter, forgetting that that girl can also abuse that child. And we see a lot of it happen, unfortunately, frequently. So home, extended and immediate, have the bulk of the blame. We create a wrong impression about what a man should be. A man should be strong. A man should not cry. A man should be masculine, should be macho. And yet, the man is going through the same thing as a woman goes through. No counseling, no support, no therapy for men. And yet, these abuses take place.
Okay, now, Mr. Peter, according to what Dr. Oshila just said now, the home. Now, when we come to the home, are we saying that it's as a result of lack of communication that results to these abuses going on in the home?
It depends. Because the truth is, when two people come together in marriage, they're coming from different backgrounds. You know, what you do, what most people do is you just pray that the person you are going to get married to is from a background that he or she can understand you easily. So if you look at the personalities that people have and the background they have, it's going to go a long way to determine how they react to things. So some people, no matter how much you communicate to them, they have a different language that they understand. Some people understand force. Some people understand attack. Some people understand defense. They don't understand negotiation. So you really can't tell where it's coming from, whether it's a lack of proper communication. Of course, in some people's situation, it can be lack of proper communication. For example, a man is working, his wife doesn't even know how much his salary is. So the wife is having some expectations that, oh, you work with so-and-so company. She believes that people who work there, they earn good. And then she doesn't know that, oh, the husband's salary is X amount. And then she demands for Y and Z. The husband can't afford it. In that case, it is lack of communication, because there are some men who believe that, oh, don't allow your wife to know what you earn.
Yeah.
There are people who have that philosophy. So under such a circumstance, the woman may not know what's coming in, and then she's expecting something more. So that we can now say, oh, lack of communication can lead to, you know, issues at home. All right, can lead to abuse coming from the woman to the man. And then in some other cases, some know how much their husband earns. They still want him to use the entire money to do a particular thing. The woman may just need, she thinks she needs a particular hair because all her friends have it.
Yeah.
The husband can't afford it. And then she keeps nagging until the man goes out to borrow to buy it. So under such conditions, there is proper communication, but she has a temperament that does not want to see reasons with reason. So there are a lot of things that can cause it. It may just be improper communication. It may also be a temperament thing. Some people know you can't. They will still tell you, oh, just like there's a kid that the boy is grown now. His dad is an electrician, an auto electrician. Sometimes the dad will be under a vehicle walking. This child will just come and tap his dad. Daddy, carry me. You know, at that point, this man is lying down. And the child tells him, Daddy, carry me. Obviously, this man can carry him. But he wants him to carry. So that's how some people are to their spouse. Some women, they are like that. Salary is here. Things are costly in the market. And then she, instead of adjusting, you know, she wants to take up the quarrel, you know,
to the next level.
To the next level. So it's just like that. It happens.
Okay, now there was this issue on the internet. It was actually buzzing. There's this guy that does these video games, that he lives off the video games. Now, the lady said, I don't have enough attention from you. Have been seeking for attention and all of that. And she knows that is where the man gets his money from. And guess what? She ends up deleting all the accounts. And the partner went, you know, he was angry about the whole situation. Now, in that case, and if it resulted to some physical fights and all of that. So in that case, would you say it's the fault of the man or the woman as resulting to whatever that happened after the deleting of the video games and all of that, that brings out huge amounts of money for himself and the family?
I would say it could be the fault of the man.
Yeah, because she is saying, you are not giving me enough attention. I need attention.
It could be the fault of the man to an extent, and the fault of the woman or the girl or whoever to another extent. However, 90% of the fault is in the hands of the woman, not the man. Because, you see, I heard this story, and the first thing that came to my mind was, this girl is childish. The guy should have known that she was like that. That's where I blame him 10%. Okay. He should have known. When you see somebody is dangerous, when you see somebody always complain persistently about something you don't think is strong enough to have such complaints, you avoid the person. Because he shouldn't have allowed her to access to where his money is coming from. There are some people who have unrealistic expectation, and it still comes back to the society and back to the family. You want to marry somebody that has a lot of money. That person that has a lot of money, if he works, is not going to have a lot of time. If you need a lot of time, you should get married to somebody that have a lot of time. Many times, those who have a lot of time, they don't have a lot of money. So the balancing of this is what should lead you. It's either, we call it foregone alternative. That's opportunity cost. You either choose the money or choose the time. So a lot of times people have unrealistic expectations. So as soon as he noticed that she has this obsession of, you don't give me time, you don't give me time, he should have either addressed it. If you want to continue in this relationship, I'm not going to have time. So if you will stay, if you won't, leave. He should have addressed it. That's the only area where I blame him. Yes. Okay. But she on her own, she is too childish. That's the truth. It takes a child to say, oh, let me stop this thing that is causing you not to have time for me. Without thinking, what is this thing to you?
Yeah.
Why do you need it? It's just like a man whose wife is complaining that you always spend money on your car. You fix your car. When the car has a problem, you fix it. But when I tell you I've not done my hair, you don't listen. Without thinking that when we're going somewhere as a family, we can't drive the hair. When I want to go and make my money, I can't drive your hair. But the car is there as a tool, not as just one thing by the wayside. It's a tool that's very, very important in bringing in the money. So if you now say, oh, okay, let's destroy the car so that I can have my hair, that's childish. You didn't calculate. So it's unfortunate what happened to that guy.
Yeah.
Because it's the loss is
massive.
I think if it just ended at just a quarrel, I think that guy is one of the meekest man in the world.
Okay, now most times the issue of violence against men we see, to Dr. Shola, the issue of violence against men we see are always abusive, are always in a result of either maybe being caught in a relationship that ought not to be, and as a result of that, leading to, you know, abuse and leading to using of sharp objects. So why do we always find that in women? What's the cause? What's the root cause of that situation?
Okay, so I think, EJ, that violence or abuse against men is not only from the opposite sex. There's abuse against a man from a stronger man. Yeah, so we must look at the abuse holistically. Okay. I beg to disagree with some of the points that my friend here made. So there are several things that result in domestic violence beyond pecuniary or financial. There are a lot of things. So our backgrounds influence how we express ourselves. So a man from a home that witnessed violence, we have a high probability of being violent. Economic situations may come in. Psychological situations may come in. So several things may lead to violence against men. And like I said, we must understand that violence against men is beyond violence against men from a woman or from the opposite gender. There's violence. In fact, most times the violence against men actually happens from another man, right? Young men are being abused. Gender. Yes, the same gender. So to your question of let me get it again, sorry.
Yes, I say most times when we get to hear about violence against men, it's always about the woman, you know, trying to lord herself over the man. And also getting physical in the process, making use of sharp objects leading to that and all of that. Now, there is a recent case of a woman or a girl in a relationship. Now, they got into a heated argument, and all of a sudden, she picked up a sharp object, sliced the back of the neck of the man, and in order for the man to, you know, retaliate, he did same thing. I think right now they are both dead. So why do we find these things? What is the root cause of this relationship issue between men and women?
Okay, so I think the first thing is upbringing.
Okay.
Yes. Train up a child in the way he or she should go. When he grows up, he won't depart from it. You know, quite frankly, a lot is wrong with how kids are raised now. Zero accountability, zero expectation. So you see the ripple effect in the quality of our relationships. So you have young ladies who are raised to expect that a man should give them. You have poor communication skills, people who should be able to communicate as adults, right? Rather will communicate with their fists. We have a culture and a society where, you see it all over the social media, where there's the violence is now promoted, it's now sensationalized. You know, if you open your social media feed now, out of every 10 content, 9
yeah.
is violence-based. So when you feed your mind with things like this, there's bound to be a time when you must give off what you have fed your mind with. So back in the day, people resolve issues by communication. If spouses have issues, you have people you could report to and say, I will tell your father, I will tell your mother, I will tell your uncle. But we don't have that anymore. So what you have now is we want to fight to finish. So I think it's society, I think it's social media, I think it's also upbringing. We're raising our kids to do worse than they should, right? Zero expectations, zero accountability. So you see that translate. In fact, what you find now is, those days, if a woman was hot, she's supposed to escalate, report. But now the trend is, if you do your own back. And people applaud such reprisal attacks rather than report it, rather than, stop it and, find a lasting solution. The way out now is, if you do, and again, I think part of the challenge with that is, in the past, when there's abuse or when there's been abuse against women, there's been zero or slow redress. So a woman is being abused, and then she suffers so much and nobody does anything about it. People take a cue and say, so I think the best thing is attack has become, so there's a lot that is wrong. And until we take the pains to make those wrongs right, we're going to have rising cases of violence, both against women and against men.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Peter, how do you think we can engage men in talking about domestic violence in their home front or even in their workplace? How do you think men can come out to, to discuss about these issues?
To me, I think it's not rocket science. As a man, I'll tell you that there's really no advice to give on that. The reason is simple. We don't discuss those things unless we are very, very comfortable.
If you can't find a man discussing,
they will laugh at you. That's the issue. If you see, let me tell you one truth. There's a joke I heard one time, and it resonates so good. To me, it's a perfect one. A man was talking in a men's conference. No, it wasn't a men's conference. People were there, men and women. Yes, in a gathering. He said, if you are here and you are controlled by your wife, sit down. So meaning, if your wife does not control you, stand up. Only one man stood up. And then as I gave him a microphone. So you mean your wife doesn't control you? When they gave him the microphone, he said, my wife told me to stand. So a lot of men who even tell other men that, oh, my wife can't do this to me. She does it to them. Men will not complain. That's just the truth. We are seen as the strong man, strong person in the house. So why should we be complaining?
Okay, we'll have to pause there, and we'll come back after this short break. We'll be right back, and we're talking about violence against men, looking at rising cases and how we can actually curb this situation. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. If you just joined us, we're looking at violence against men, yes, rising cases. Now, I had to jot something down that came to my mind while we went on a short break. Now, why are women perceived to be less capable of perpetrating violence? To Dr. Shula.
Okay. I think biology is at the core of it. Again, Mr. Peter was talking about one of the reasons why domestic violence against men is perpetuated and goes mostly unreported. That men don't talk about it. Yes, men don't talk about it because of societal expectations. Like I said earlier, there is a persona that has been built around men. What a man should be, how a man should behave, things that a man should say. In fact, if a man is too expressive, he's regarded as a woman. Meanwhile, talking is an avenue to ventilate. You say it, it's off your chest. So when you find domestic violence happen in such instances, you find that you said why women are more women are not more expected to. I think it's again it's because violence against men goes mostly unreported, right? So they say a woman cannot do it, and then biologically a woman is seen to be a weaker vessel than the men.
And when issues like this comes up, and you still find some persons even telling you,
yes,
I'm sure the man must have caused it.
Yes, but again, there is really no justification for violence because the ripple effect of violence transcends the cause, right? Look at that woman who says she saw her husband with a mistress.
Oh, yeah.
And then
the one
drove like a maniac, killed herself.
In the process.
And then, the consequences are far-reaching. So again, we must go back to educating the girl child on what marriage is about. Because a lot of times it's also people come into relationships. Yes, I know I said that you have violence against men, not just only from the female gender. You have it from men. You have young boys being sexually abused and all that. But again, I think most of the root cause of domestic violence is usually marriage-based. So you find two people come together who do not understand their temperaments. He said it rightly, unrealistic expectations. And then somebody was telling me this morning that the moment you're married, understand that you can't be married and be unmarried. So to your point, Oloyi, when you said a woman should not check a man's phone, a man should not check a woman's phone, in my opinion, if you cannot go into a relationship with all of you, then you should not be there. Because it is the lack of communication, the lack of commitment that actually spirals into violence, right? So a woman becomes very physical when she has had it. A man becomes very physical when he has had it. So if partners communicate in a civil manner, express their displeasure in a civil manner, and people understand that you cannot be in a relationship and do as you like. And then with the times, people are less patient. I talked about social media and how it impacts our behavior. Societal culture is shifting. Back in the day, the things that happen now were taboos. Right? So because of that, people must understand that, look, if you cannot be in a committed relationship, don't be in a relationship. Don't be. People's mental health, especially women, is becoming more frail. A woman gives birth, a woman commits to a marriage, a woman raises children. The woman expects faithfulness. You don't give her that. Again, we don't have support systems anymore. Back in the day, you have where you could go to, you could report, and it's kept within that support system. Now, social media is the support system. She comes to social media and says, my husband did this, and says, give it to him. She goes home and does that.
Whereas what's happening in their house
is worse off,
is opposite of what the person is even facing.
Yes. So those are we must go back to educating ourselves. Understand that violence doesn't resolve anything. Those in relationships must understand that people's mental, we didn't understand how frail. There was not much awareness about mental health. But now you see it, that people's mental health are people they're on short leash. They snap, and you see how much violence. Look at that woman driving like a maniac, the case of one cutting off her husband's genital. Frail state of mind. So men should also understand that, look, you push this woman to the brink, she becomes a monster that she doesn't want to be. So there must be communication in relationship, I think.
Okay. Well, all right. Is there any way men can actually, this is to Mr. Peter now, can actually form a group?
Yes.
To, to sensitize themselves on issues like this? Because we know we have organizations for women also. So do we have organizations for men that they can come together and talk about these issues affecting them. I know you will still go the whole African way.
No, but we have now. Sorry, we actually,
Okay.
you know, Africa is also evolving. We also have support systems for men now. That's the truth of the matter.
Okay.
We may not have them as much as we have for women,
Yes.
but there are groups, there are advocacy groups.
Okay, that comes out
Yes,
to,
that
to
speak,
fight for...
even women-led advocacy groups that speaks against violence against men.
Okay, all right. Okay.
For me, I would say the men have a group, just that it's not formal. The beer parlor support system is there. That's why you find a lot of men, when they are angry, where do they go? A lot of men go to the beer parlor. And when they get to beer parlor, you see men there. They sit down while they are drinking, they are discussing. Some will now present their problem like it's happening to their neighbor. You know, they say, there's a man I know, this one happens, that one happens, and then, you know, see, one respect.
They end up getting solutions.
Yes. One respect I still have for beer parlor is that there is always a wise man in the midst of foolish people.
Okay, I think we should calm down on that.
Okay. There's always a wise man. Let me tell you why. I've observed, you know, I've been to places where somebody's talking, bringing his problem, and then there must be somebody with a solution. Somebody will just say something, you know. So men have these informal places where they meet, and then now social media is another support. But to find support group, maybe there's a pressure group, and then people come together. You find more of women who are interested in that. Men are not just interested. So I'm not saying that there are none, but I'm not aware of any yet. But I know men just know how to go to where men always are, and then they just sit down and discuss their problems. Then again, a lot of men in this part of the world believe that as a man, it's your right to cheat. So a lot of men cheat on their wives. And there are women who cannot, by their temperaments, they just can't imagine their wife, their husband having a girlfriend. Do you understand? So that's why there are many women who check their husband's phones. Then some have a habit. It's not as if they are digging anything. They have a habit of checking somebody's phone. You know. That's where it still comes down to the family, because there are some families where if a child picks up something that belongs to another person, they will spank the child. Hey, drop it. It's not yours. There are other places they can even take the phone and destroy it. So just imagine somebody who is used to, oh, my dad comes back from work, pick up his phone and then press and then check things. When she grows up and becomes a wife, it's a normal thing to just pick, because the man in the house now is the husband. Pick up the phone and check. For a man who does not cheat, I'll tell you this, a man who does not cheat on his wife really almost doesn't have an issue with the wife checking his phone. My wife checks my phone. How do I know? There was one day I woke up in the morning, I was going through messages, and then I saw a reply that I gave to somebody that I didn't give. I saw the reply. My husband is sleeping. That was the reply to the message. That was how I knew that my wife was with my phone while I was asleep. My phone doesn't have password till today. You understand? But there are men who password their phone. Some use fingerprint. Some use facial ID. You know why? There's really something they are hiding. So a lot of times we find women who want to know whether there's somebody competing with them. They check. But the thing is, I will say this, if you are a woman that will get bothered, that will get depressed, it's just better you avoid the phone. You understand? If you know you are strong enough not to get depressed, you go and search. When you see anything that you really don't like, then you can talk about it and handle it any way you want to handle it. But if you know you can't really handle it finally, what's the essence of checking? You understand? So I would say it's about temperament. Just marry somebody you'll be good with, good or bad. Then know yourself. If you see this thing, if it will bother you, don't even bother to go and look for it. Because you see one thing about happiness, it's controlled. See, your mood is controlled by you based on what you know. So if you know that if I have this information, it's really going to give me a bad day and continue to give me a bad day, then just don't look for the information. Just keep it to yourself. That's what I think.
Okay, all right. Okay, now to Dr. Shola. What's the place of government in all of this to safeguard the, the integrity of a man and his home?
Yeah. The truth of the matter is that government has a lot of responsibility, a lot of role to play. The first one is sensitization. Government, excuse me, must do a lot of sensitization, right? A campaign of some sort. Agencies that are involved in mass education, dissemination of information should bring out programs where a speak out campaign. If you are being abused, you're not okay where you are, please speak up. 2, government must also ensure that when there is established case of abuse, the same energy with which we give women justice, we get women redress, we should also give it to men. Because if men get the justice and the redress they desire, for me, infidelity is not a ground for killing someone. If you are not comfortable, it is I go do, then I will undo. Why do you need to take somebody's life because he's cheating on you? There are several avenues to ending the relationship. Divorce is one of them. You can break up, so why take his life? He's somebody's child. Just like if the woman were to have a child, you would not also be happy if somebody were to take your child's life. So if men get the redress they need, they get the support they need from agencies of government, because government has the capacity to provide as much support, you will find a lot of men speak up. And then we must also importantly start a campaign on stop shaming men, stop stigmatizing men who speak up. The stigma must stop. If you stop, when we had the rise in HIV/AIDS in the 80s, there was a campaign on HIV not be death sentence. And people speak up now and say, look, this is my status and all that. So if we also take that route and say, speak up, it doesn't make you a weaker man. If you think that somebody is abusing you, whether your wife, whether your girlfriend, whether somebody bigger than you, speak up. And I think that will put an end to a lot of it.
Okay. Now to Mr. Peter, thank God you said something about some gatherings now. Okay, now if you're in a gathering and someone talks about his home fronts, what's happening in the home at that time, do you find people, positively advising that man?
It's 2 ways. People always advise based on what they will do and based on what they know. Many times they get more negative advice than positive. There are men who come back from wherever they go and they beat their wife. You know why? 90% of what they've heard is when the woman does this to me, this is what I will do. So they need feedback. Some people are very wicked. If a man complains about his wife, tomorrow they want to get feedback. What happened yesterday? That's why many times men don't talk. Because a wise man will look at it and say, this issue that I have, let me just stomach it. Let me think of a way to go about it instead of taking it to the public. Because the public of men now, they'll say, they're not doing this kind of thing. No, if not me, this is what I'm going to do. So many times it's bad advice you get. Only 10% of the times is when you get good advice. Because you see, everybody goes through one thing or the other.
Absolutely.
And I always tell people, try as much as you can when you are growing up. Because this is a very, very bad trend today. Guys who are 15, 16, 17, 18, many don't really train themselves. They don't train their minds. All they are looking for is money. I want hammer, I want to get this, I want to get that. So a lot of people don't know how to handle issues. You see, it's not every woman who complains that's really doing it or that means evil. A lot of women, one way they know how to communicate is to complain about something until they see changes. They can keep nagging the same thing until they see changes. And some men are not trained to understand the language where this thing is going. Yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of times men are not, they don't understand. Why is she just complaining? Sometimes you just need to sit down and say, what is she complaining about? Ask yourself, why is she complaining? Okay, if I do things differently,
Will she stop?
will she stop? Many men don't do that. And that's why many men cannot give their fellow man a good advice.
Good advice.
So it's rare to find a man that can really give a good advice to another man. I've had to advise a lot of men. There was one day, I saw a man whose wife, it was his wife's birthday. He said, I have given them money to go and relax. And then I said, who is them? He said, my wife and her cousins. I said, no, you are supposed to be there. It's your wife's birthday. See, even if you are there, you are not talking. Let them just see you. The same person talking to another person, okay, you don't settle them. You are a good man. So, a lot of times, we really need to look at this. Violence against men, sometimes, it's what the woman has she uses. It's her mouth. Some women who are actually termed violent are not. They are not. While others are. They just keep complaining about one thing. If the man changes the way he does it, that's it. They won't complain again. So, to answer your question like I've answered, many times men don't get good advice. That's just the truth.
Okay.
Many times they don't.
All right, before we call it a wrap on violence against men, now, Dr. Shola, your advice to women out there, telling them on what they should expect in the home front and what they should do in cases like this.
Okay, so for me, what I would say is infidelity is at the core of domestic violence. Infidelity, lack of communication, or breakdown of communication is what leads to domestic violence that sometimes leads to fatality. So the first thing I will say is, as much as, especially our young girls, as much as you want to get married, ensure that you go understanding what you are getting yourself into. That marriage is not what you go into with unrealistic expectations. Secondly, seek support. There must just be a way to have conversations with your partner. And if it doesn't work, you can exit rather than become violent. Yes, marriage is one of the things that we accomplish, but that's not the only thing our life is about. People go to become amazing people and they are not married. So if you know that, especially the women and the men, if you know that you're not ready for the commitment of marriage, nobody is forcing you to go. So that we just reduce. I know for me, AJ, it's the children from these relationships that suffer. You stigmatize your children, you label them generational names that they should not be. Oh, the mother killed the father killed the mother and all that. So all of these are avoidable if we all understand what we are going into. And then to what Mr. Peter said about beer parlor, again, you are a product of the company you keep. If you want, you cannot seek counsel from someone who doesn't have what you are looking for. You can't ask a toad for a stool when you see him squatting. So if you want your relationships to work, engage and fraternize with people whose relationships are working. If you go to the beer parlor, you would likely not find the men. As you went there to ventilate, everybody has gone there to ventilate.
All right, so a quick one now, Mr. Peter. Your advice to men.
My advice to men is they should learn wisdom from wise men and pass it down to their sons. That's where it begins from. I am a product of a young boy who listened to old men. Do you understand? So they should pass it to their children. This is going to take a long time for it to stop. But men now should take it seriously to train their sons. That's the solution.
Better men.
All right, Remember that violence against men is a serious issue that requires attention, support, and action. By working together, we can create a safer and more equitable society for all. It has been Oloije Oikokai on Flipside. Till I'll be seeing you again next week to learn how to control your temper. Bye for now.